Chapter 4 A Cry in the Night. The Simplon Orient Express arrived at Belgrade at 8:45 that evening. It was not due to depart again until 9:15. So Poirot descended to the platform. He did not know, however, remain there long. The cold was bitter, and though the platform itself was protected, heavy snow it was falling outside. He returned to his compartment. The conductor, who was on the platform, stamping his feet and waving his arms to keep warm, spoke to him. "Your valises have been moved, monsieur, to the compartment number 1, the compartment of M. Bock." "But where is Monsieur Bock, then?" "He has moved into the coach from Athens, which has just been put on." Poirot went in search of his friend. M. Bock waved his protestations aside. It is nothing. It is more convenient like this. You are going through to England, so it is better that you should stay in through coach to Calais. Me, I am very well here. It is most peaceful. The coach is empty, save for myself and one little Greek doctor. Ah, my friend, what a night! They say there has not been much snow for years. Let us hope we shall not be held up. I am not too happy about this, I can tell you. At 9:15 punctually, the train pulled out of the station, and shortly afterwards Poirot got up. So said good night to his friend and made his way along the corridor back into his own coach, which was in front next to the dining car. On this, the second day of the journey, barriers were breaking down. Colonel Arbuthnot was standing at the door of his compartment talking to McQueen. When McQueen saw Poirot broke off something he was saying, he looked very much surprised. "Why," he cried, "I thought you left us. You said you were getting off at Belgrade." "You misunderstood me," said Poirot, smiling. "I remember now. The train started from Stamboul just as we were talking about it." "But, man, your baggage, it's gone." "It has been moved into another compartment, that is all." "Oh, I see." He resumed his conversation with Arbuthnot, and Poirot passed on down the corridor. 2 doors from his own compartment, the elderly American, Mrs. Hubbard, was standing talking to the sheep-like lady who was a Swede. Mrs. Hubbard was pressing a magazine on the other. "No, do not take it, my dear," she said. "I have got plenty of other things to read. My, isn't the cold something frightful?" She nodded amicably to Poirot. "You are most kind," said the Swedish lady. "Not at all. I hope you'll sleep well, and that your head will be better in the morning. It is the cold only. I make myself a cup of tea. Have you got some aspirin? Are you sure now?" "I've got plenty. Well, good night, my dear." She turned to Poirot conversationally as the other woman departed. "Poor creature, she's a Swede. As far as I can make out, she's kind of a missionary. I teach you one, a nice creature, but doesn't talk much English. She was most interested in what I told her about my daughter." Poirot now knew all about Mrs. Hubbard's daughter. Everyone on the train who could understand English did. How she and her husband were on the staff of a big American college in Smyrna, and how this was Mrs. Hubbard's first journey to the East, and what she thought of the Turks and their slipshod ways and the condition of the roads. The door next to them opened, and the thin, pale manservant stepped out. Inside, Poirot caught a glimpse of Mr. Ratchet sitting up in bed. He saw Poirot, and his face changed, darkening with anger. Then the door was shut. Mrs. Hubbard drew Poirot a little aside. "You know, I'm dead scared of that man." "Oh, not the valet, the other, his master." "Master, indeed. There's something wrong about that man. My daughter always says I'm very intuitive. When Mama gets a hunch, she's dead right. That's what my daughter says, and I've got a hunch about that man. He's next door to me, and I don't like it. I put my grips against the communicating door last night. I thought I heard him trying the handle. Do you know, I shouldn't be a bit surprised if the man turned out to be a murderer, one of these train robbers you read about. I dare say I'm foolish, but there it is. I'm absolutely scared to death of that man. My daughter said I've had an easy journey, but somehow I don't feel happy about it. It may be foolish, but I feel as if anything might happen, anything at all. And how the nice young fellow can bear to be his secretary, I can't think." Colonel Arbuthnot and McQueen were coming towards them down the corridor. "Come into my carriage," McQueen was saying. "It isn't made up for the night yet. Now, what I want to get right about your policy in India is this." The 2 men passed and went on down the corridor to McQueen's carriage. Mrs. Hubbard said good night to Poirot. "I guess I'll go to bed. Go right to bed and read," she said. "Good night." "Good night, madam." Poirot passed into his own compartment, which was the next one beyond Ratchet's. He undressed and got into bed, read for half an hour, and then turned out the light. He woke some hours later, woke with a start. He knew what He knew it was that had awakened him, a loud groan, almost a cry, somewhere close at hand. At the same moment the ting of a bell rang sharply. Poirot sat up and switched on the light. He noticed the train was at a standstill, presumably at a station. That cry startled him. He remembered that it was Ratchet who had the next compartment. He got out of bed and opening the door just as the wagon-lit conductor came hurtling along the corridor and knocked on Ratchet's door. Poirot kept his door open a crack and watched. The conductor tapped a second time. A bell rang, and a light showed over another door farther down. The conductor glanced over his shoulder. At the same moment, a voice from within the next compartment called, "Sinistren, je me suis trompé?" "Bien, monsieur." The conductor scurried off again to knock at the door where the light was showing. Poirot returned to bed, his mind relieved. Switching off the light, he glanced at his watch. It was just 23 minutes to 1.